Me too, Springtrap, me too. If you've spent any amount of time on social media lately in the DbD space, first of all, get out while you still can, and secondly, you'll have noticed that a lot of people, especially content creators, have been saying the game is not doing very hot right now. I haven't given my thoughts on it outside of the blanket statement of I agree, and I wasn't planning to talk about the state of the game since outside of the exception a couple months ago where I crashed out because of the Walking Dead patch's issues and took a month away from the game, I don't desire to make negative content on Dead by Daylight. We have plenty of that already and I don't want to feed into it. I'd rather create casual discussions and focus on just having a good time with a game I genuinely enjoy for the most part. I do what I do on my own terms rather than an addiction or obligation to the channel. That's why my upload schedule is essentially release date when it's ready. That said, ever since Walking Dead and more recently Sinister Grace, I've been noticing more and more discussion cropping up about a long-standing mental issue surrounding DbD's killer role, killer anxiety. And with the 9.3.0 PTP causing a whole host of doom and gloom at the moment, I figured now would be a good time to tackle this subject. With all that out of the way, let's bite the bullet and talk about a serious topic for a change. Let's talk about killer anxiety. To start us off, what exactly is killer anxiety? For anyone not living under a rock, killer anxiety is the feeling of dread or impending doom a player feels when they load up DbD with the intent to play killer, only to stare down the menu or pace around the room or whatever else they do when feeling stressed, and eventually decide to either switch to survivor or get off the game entirely. It's basically the fear of playing killer in this game. If this is a feeling you, the viewer, have felt before, don't worry, you're not alone. I've experienced this myself at several points in my DbD career, and I'm currently feeling it again to some degree right now. And if you take a second to browse YouTube or Reddit, you can see several videos and posts of people discussing this very topic themselves. Hell, there's a decent chance that's a reason you're here right now if you found me outside of my other content or from my Discord server. Link in the description, by the way, if you're interested. We're super chill and we got a very welcoming community over there. That aside, killer anxiety is a genuine issue in this game, especially notable since killer is the game's power role. But what exactly causes this feeling? Shouldn't the power role be the one in control of the match? Well, most of the time that is indeed the case. But do bear in mind that the power role is also the one in the 1v4 PvP game. You yourself are responsible for how the game goes. It's more complicated than that alone though, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of it and where I'm sure most of this discussion is going to occur. Let me start this section off with a little disclaimer. Killer should absolutely be the harder of the two roles to play. It's supposed to be. You're managing gens, survivors, hook states, health states, and trying to juggle your time between all of this. It's a big ask, but with how the gameplay loop is structured, that's just how it is. Winning every single game with a 3K and or 4K is unrealistic, and the opposite is true for Survivor, especially in solo queue. While there's nothing wrong with the killer role having to juggle a lot of stuff in order to do well, what is a problem is expecting every killer player to play the same way every time and throwing a hissy fit when they deviate and something doesn't go your way when the opposite role min-maxes everything possible to win. A major reason for killer anxiety is due to the fear of the unknown. No, not the killer. They're harmless. I'm talking actual uncertainty within the player themselves unknown. Throughout DbD's lifespan, the game has notoriously favored survivors for most of it, despite what many in bad faith and negativity bias would say otherwise, ranging from broken perks and add-ons that needed their numbers toned down, perks and add-ons with unhealthy designs, medkits and toolboxes being so much more insane than they are now, if you can believe it, all that jazz. Now, killers weren't exempt from insane design choices either, but many of them were more killer-specific as opposed to the entire role as a whole. The major outlier here being the gen kick meta, and in that instance the game was favoring killer thanks to that era being beneficial for the majority of, if not the entire roster. Most of this old stuff for both roles has been addressed, reworked, or toned down, and are mostly fine nowadays. So what's the issue with fearing the unknown? Well, thanks to the asymmetrical aspect of this game and the amount of RNG means that you can either get a regular game or you could get yourself a Sabo squad or a bully squad or a team bringing all meta things. These aren't completely impossible to handle outside of maybe the full meta loadouts depending on your killer choice and what map you all got sent to, but the main issue here is a psychological one. As the power role, you are on your own. You don't get teammates to help you outside of 2v8. It's just you, your killer choice, and your 4 survivor opponents that match. And you don't know what you're going to get until that match starts. As a result, a big component of the fear of the unknown is fearing the relatively uncommon / rare scenario of running into a bully squad or sabo squad. Groups of survivors that are typically on a Discord call coordinating rescues on each other or harassing the killer player. These playstyles are countered by excessive slugging, which isn't fun to do, mind you, but neither is getting harassed by altruism or people with issues controlling their egos. The point here is that while these two playstyles are counterable with enough patience and the fact that these teams are wasting time not doing the objective, it does not change the fact that it is infamously annoying as fuck to face and tends to just ruin the mood for everyone involved. Speaking of harassment, this is a good segue to talk about another issue that contributes to killer anxiety, so let's move on to that. I feel like I've made my case on this point anyway. Look, I dislike talking about this game's entitlement problem. It's uncomfortable to read about, it's uncomfortable to hear about, and I find it concerning as to why these people still play this game if they're that intolerant of it. I'm not very critical on this game, as I tend to stay away from interacting with the wider community and just lurk on social media unless someone has a genuine question, and when I do get critical, like that one video I made during The Walking Dead, I do it because I genuinely care about this game greatly and I want to see it do better, not because I'm entitled. But it's undeniable that a huge part of killer anxiety stems from the entitlement problem this game has, and it feeds into that fear of unknown thing I talked about earlier. On one hand, you could get a group of survivors who don't care too much and are chill, and hell, maybe you could be a goober with them and everyone has fun messing around in a friendly one-off match. On the other hand, you can get survivors who are sore winners, sore losers, shame you for how you play, or even send you threats and stalk you all because of a video game. Now, this is an issue for survivors as well. This isn't exclusively a killer thing. I remember a time earlier this year before the quest system got added where I had to report a Houndmaster because they sent death threats to my rando teammates on solo queue because she wasn't able to get her Houndmaster ritual done. A fucking ritual. Those things that only gave you 50k blood points tops. We didn't even do anything bad either, we were just playing the game and she was struggling to get downs. As much as you don't want to hear it, both sides are just as likely to send entitlement to each other, but you just see it more on the survivor side of things for the simple reason that there's just 4 of them in a match as opposed to the other side only having 1 killer. Basically, the chances of running into people who are just complete psychopaths and insult everyone at the slightest hit to their pride contributes to the feeling of anxiety, and if I'm going to be real, if you're feeling anxious to play killer because of that, I can't say I blame you. I've experienced this myself. It was a big thing that stopped me from playing killer when I first returned to this game in 2023. I've grown a lot as a player since then when I finally bit the bullet, but there are some other factors that still cause some killer anxiety in me to this day, and this is also something I'm sure many people nowadays can relate to as well. The current state of the game. A big part of the more recent surges of killer anxiety nowadays stems from the recent balance decisions made to this game lately that have been harming killers. The earliest massive changes was the 70-second hook stages back during the Castlevania chapter, which, while not anything crazy from a casual point of view, massively buffed survivors who were willing to save at the last second, thus extracting as much time as possible on generators and pressuring the killer because of it. Gen regression and blocking perks, one of the big 3s regarding killer perk types, got nerfed a bit as well without toning down gen progression perks and toolboxes, mainly the commodious one, alongside the changes, resulting in gen speeds being faster than they've been overall, even if you as the killer have been playing well. This was partially fixed when Hex, Ruin, Call of Brine, and Oppression were significantly buffed later down the line, but they tend to be supplements to existing perks rather than being sufficient on their own, with the exception of maybe Ruin. However, things started getting rough, I've noticed, around the Steady Pulse chapter. That chapter gave Duty of Care, a strong altruism perk, especially in Swift, and Do No Harm, a healing perk that gets stronger over time the more hook states the healing recipient has. The FNAF chapter buffed a ton of healing perks to make resetting even faster, with the most egregious one being Botany Knowledge, which to this day I have no idea how that got through the PTB. And I can say the same about Conviction from the Walking Dead chapter. The most extreme change made so far out of this list has been the palette density update from Sinister Grace, making anti-loop, or a way to get around palettes, vital, since this makes over half the maps in the game look like you're playing on Gideons, exacerbating the issue of pretty much half the roster being borderline unplayable against good survivors, while the high A to S plus tier killers who already don't care about palettes can just ignore this entirely and keep doing what they're doing. Thankfully, Behavior did say they're going to do something about this change in particular, so time will tell if this point becomes outdated or not. This also doesn't factor that the game in general has always been buggy, but just like with the above perk changes and palette density, the spaghetti code got thrown in the blender and became a chunky, whatever abomination you want to call it, because the bugs have gotten unacceptably bad starting at Steady Pulse and got amplified further during the Walking Dead patch. This doesn't affect every killer, but there's a few that did not take this well, with the biggest losers of this bug infestation being Knight and Deathslinger. These two are genuinely in sorry states right now because of the bugs, and Knight actually got even worse on the 9.3.0 PTB, if you can believe it. I know I just finished slamming the state of the game for killers, but it's a genuinely valid reason for killer anxiety in the modern day. I've seen it all over the place lately from other creators, Refined being a big one, and on Reddit. There's a reason people started talking about killers suddenly feeling harder when FNAF came out, as Springtrap is just an above average killer, which isn't a bad thing by the way. But just compare that to having gotten Dracula and Kaneki before him and Pursue dropped after him. These three alongside the other S tiers are not your average killers. They have the tools needed to combat all of the above changes and still do well. The rest of the roster doesn't due to lacking one or several traits that they would kill to have, mobility being a big one. Overall, the balance changes made to this game recently have been making killer anxiety get worse thanks to the general weakening of killer and the strengthening of good survivors, making fearing the unknown even worse. Keep in mind that I said good survivors. All of these changes mean nothing if survivors can't use them due to skill issue, which, I hate to be blunt, but that's the majority of their player base. That's why killers can still get results, and the only cure to skill issue is actively seeking to get better instead of playing on autopilot. As for treating killer anxiety, what I've found that consistently helps me get through it, at least for the first game or two so I can calm down, is to have some friends watch you while you play, or at the very least, just be around to talk to you. Whether IRL or on Discord, it doesn't really matter. The whole point of it is just to have someone or multiple people with you to talk to, and, at least for me, it helps calm the nerves and get your mind off the stress. Every person has their own way to reduce stress, that's just mine. Do what you need to do to relax yourself before the match starts. You're supposed to have fun and enjoy yourself when playing a video game, not stress and hyperventilate over a worst case scenario that might not even occur. If you clicked on this video because you're experiencing the feeling of killer anxiety yourself, you are most definitely not alone. So many other people in this game feel the same way, and I just felt like I had to yap about it since I've experienced this myself several times and I've noticed it's been getting worse lately. Feel free to tell me about all your experiences with killer anxiety in the comments below. And if you're new here and you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and join the community Discord in the description. With that in mind, cheers!